Arthur again, and today we have a 2005 Mercedes C55 AMG with 142,000 miles on it. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please consider subscribing and watching some of my other videos. I have a lot of videos on interesting cars and repairs that will really help me out with helping the channel grow. So as far as this car goes, it has a smoking issue. It smokes out of the exhaust, especially if it sits overnight, or it will sit for a few days and then you'll start it and it will be a big puff of smoke coming from the exhaust, or hard acceleration as well. So I did remove some of the spark plugs and I did bore scope in the cylinder, and I did see some oil sitting once the car has been sitting for a day, and the valves do look kind of cooked up with some oil residue on it. So it looks like it has bad valve stem seals, so we're gonna go ahead and replace them. It's fairly common on the M113 engine to have that issue. It's not as common as some V8 BMWs, but it is with an older, nearly 20-year-old car, it is possible to have it. So we're gonna address that issue with this car. All right, let me show you what parts I have. Here are the parts that I have so far. It's original valve cover gaskets, as well as sealant, new spark plugs, and 24 valve stem seals. I also have a valve spring compressing tool that I'm going to be using, so it should work fine for this engine. All right, let's see. Okay, I have the both side valve covers off. I did remove the rocker arms already from the driver's side. They are right there. There is 18 bolts that hold them down. You start from the middle, opposite sides, and work your way out to get them out. They do take new bolts. I'm going to order new bolts for them on both sides. There's 38 in total to install new ones. So I did pull one of the spark plugs out on cylinder 1. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull one out on each cylinder, because there is two spark plugs on this engine per cylinder, and then I'll put a hose down with compressed air to keep the valves closed. That way I can replace the valve stem seals. And also I have the engine at the top dead center. I'm going to adjust it as needed to make sure the valves stay closed. They should. Anyway, so let's see how it goes. Okay, the first cylinder valve stem seals have been replaced. I did have to put the cylinder all the way down to be able to put compressed air in there. I did put some penetrating fluid on the keepers and I did give it a couple of light whacks with this friend of mine, and then now I was able to compress them and replace them. They are pretty tricky to put it back. You gotta make sure you don't drop them first of all, and then they're kind of hard to put them back. That's just how keepers go usually, and you just gotta make sure you give yourself some room and some patience. So I did replace I did remove the two spark plugs from there. These two don't look that bad actually. The rear cylinders had the most buildup on them on this engine. These are the new ones that are gonna go in. So I'm gonna put these in and then I'm gonna continue. It's a pretty good amount of work. Take a day or two to complete. A couple of days I would say. But it's something you don't want to rush into, and keep it patient and try not to get distracted and to get it done. All right. So I'm working on the driver's side currently. I have marked all the valve stem seals that I've replaced. I mark them right after I replace them so I don't forget which one I did, which one I didn't do. On the driver's side, the tool that I have is not working very well. The way the throw is on this one is it doesn't give you enough room to do the bottom valves. So what I did is I did all the top ones first because this one will work for it as such, but for the bottom it doesn't reach. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this because this is too long. I'm going to cut this down, possibly make an extra groove here to make it work for the bottom ones. Once I get it to work, I'll show you what the tool looks like after that got to work for the bottom valves. I did order another toolkit for this just in case if I don't get to be able to use this one, if I can modify another one. I did have to put a little strap here on a camshaft as this is trying whenever I turn the engine to bring the cylinder down to be able to compress the valves. The camshaft is trying to move out of its way, so I did put a light strap here. It does have a rug around it. It's not really any pressure here because it's most with hand. It's not scratching anything or anything, but just to keep it in place. I'm guessing there's a special tool for this. I don't have one in my toolkit for that, but that shouldn't really matter that much. I'm not messing with the timing at all right now. It's just basically to keep everything in place while I'm doing the valve stem seals. So everything on this side is done except the bolts. I'm waiting for new bolts to pick them up today. And then on this side I did all these 8 valves, and there's 4 valves I'm going to do next, and then put everything back with new bolts, put the valve covers back, and that should be it. Alright. Okay, so here's the tool. What I did is, this was where the handle was. I drilled another hole here and then made a groove here to make it work on the bar. Originally didn't have anything, it was flat there with no hole. This was under the red handle that went there. This one is shorter, so it'll give you a little more room to work on the bottom 4 valves. And then this one, I trimmed it off because it was too short to fit in this area. Now it fits better. There was no, it was hitting the ABS pump and as well as the wall on that side, so it wasn't letting me do the work. And as far as this tool goes, if you do end up with this tool, it comes with pins, these pins that have to go in here, and they are very bad. So what I ended up is I just put a 6mm bolt with a nut instead. That way it doesn't come off, or the other one keeps falling off and it might end up in your engine or just is an inconvenience. Anyway, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do the last 4. I also bought new bolt sets. This is 36 long bolts. These were about $5 each, $6 each. And then to my surprise, these 2 short ones, they go right in the front, right here. They are $60 each for 2 of them, which is ridiculous. I don't know, I asked the parts guys, like, hey, is this a mistake? Like, what's going on? And he said that, nope, that's just the price. I was like, alright, I guess that's what we're gonna do. Okay. Alright, I have all the valve stem seals replaced on both sides, as well as new bolts installed for the valve train. There is a specific torque figure for the bolts. It is 10 Newton meters for the long bolts, and then you turn it around 90 degrees after torquing it to 10 Newton meters. The short bolts on the front just get torqued down to 15 Newton meters, and that's it, no more turning on that one. There's a specific sequence. You go from inside out, inside 2, then these 2, then these 2, then these 2, then these 2, like this, out, from inside out. You tighten them as you go. You kind of want them, you don't want them to be too loose and then too tight, so it will sit in nicely. I did turn the engine with hand, and it turns nice and smooth. It does have pretty good compression, so it's not that easy to turn, but it's, once you turn it, it goes good. I do have the valve covers apart and cleaned up on this 113 and 112 engines. You do separate this part, and there's another sealer that goes here. You clean that up and put a new one, because they do like to leak from there. This one was done at some point before, because the covers are fairly clean. It wasn't leaking much. It's a very small leak. I do have new gaskets. I'm gonna go ahead and put them on. As far as the valve stem seals go, a couple of pointers that I would like to remind you guys. If you are doing this job, make sure your seals are seated back all the way. Once you push them, there's one slight bump it has to go in through before it's seated in its place. Or if you just drop them in there, there's no spring that pushes against the block, unlike on some other engines. This one is just held by its own, the valve stem. So just make sure you get that nice positive click before you continue. And the shortening the tool really worked for this side lower valves. What else? Let's see, you do have to bottom out all the cylinders to be able to put air in there, or it'll spin on you, the engine. And about 80 psi will hold the valves in nicely. Make sure you tap the caps of the valves to break the keepers, or they're stuck. They won't come out that easily. Put a towel around each one to make sure not to drop the keepers. And it's just take your time. It is a tedious process. Should be good results from it, but as far as doing it, it is pretty time consuming. Alright, let's continue. If I remember anything else, I'll add it towards the end of the video. Valve covers are on both sides, resealed with new gaskets. Next is going to be coils and wires, and then that's about it. Connect all the wiring, put the airbox, and then start it. Okay, I have the ignition coils in. I'm gonna do a first start. Might take a while to start because of the gas line being disconnected. And we'll start to prime it a little bit. There we go. It sounds good. Just gonna look for leaks or anything. Going to see some smoke because of the oil that spilled on the sides. That should be normal. Sounds nice and smooth, no noises. Just gonna let it run for a few minutes and burn off all the oil around it. I'll put the cover on. Now let's look at the exhaust, see if there's any smoke. There might be some due to the car sitting and working on it, but it should burn off. Actually, it runs a lot cleaner already. All right, looks good. No check engine light. Great. All right, as you saw, the car is running well. I did have it running for about 15 minutes to burn some of the oil that got spilled on the sides of the engine. I did put brugs under it while I was doing the work to catch most of the oil, but some does get spilled out. Anyway, as far as the job went, everything went smooth. I enjoyed the process. It is a time-consuming job, but it is pretty rewarding, and I did enjoy doing it. Now let me show you some of the old parts that I have removed. Okay, here are all the spark plugs that were removed, all 16 of them. I don't know how this engine ran okay still. Wait, look how cooked these spark plugs are. A lot of them. Maybe like 6 of them are really bad shape. The cylinders in the back, they're really burning oil. And these are the valve stem seals. Some of them got mangled while removing. But if you compare to new ones, this hole is a little larger, noticeably larger, and it lets oil go through, and that causes the oil burning, especially when the car sits overnight or for a few days. That oil really gets in the cylinder, and then once you start it up, you get this big puff of smoke. And these are the old hardwares. So thank you for watching. Hopefully you learned something from this video. Please comment, like and subscribe. There are more videos to come.